Am I the asshole for asking my buddy's ex who insures their child? I, 35M, have a friend, Steve, 48, who accidentally got Stephanie, 44, pregnant about a decade ago, and they now have a daughter, Chloe, 9. I met Steve last year at a park while walking my dog, and we became friends since he lives nearby and also has a dog. Steve's a good guy who cares deeply about his daughters. He has 3 adult daughters from another relationship. Whenever I'm with Steve and Stephanie calls, she often seems ridiculous. Sometimes she calls over minor things. Other times, she's frantic, like she's on the verge of a breakdown. She's a helicopter parent and very possessive of Chloe. Stephanie doesn't let Chloe visit Steve alone. The first time Steve ever took Chloe anywhere without her was recently, and only because one of his adult daughters went with them to a movie. Steve said Stephanie blew up Chloe's phone the entire time. Steve wanted to teach Chloe to ski, but Stephanie told him it wasn't appropriate for a 9-year-old and that he needed to find a better activity. Every idea Steve has for activities gets shut down with an excuse. Despite this, Stephanie often makes passive-aggressive comments like, "Come over here and be a dad." Even though Steve gives her at least $250 a month, voluntarily, no court order, and spends multiple evenings a week at her place to be with Chloe, as that's Stephanie's idea of visitation. She makes it seem like he isn't a good father or something when it is she that doesn't really let Chloe hang out with friends. She that bought Chloe a smartphone due to her incessant need to always be able to contact her. She who isolates Chloe from Steve's side of the family, and she who is always worrying about making rent, yet only has a part-time job and spends money that should be going towards other things on weed. When Steve brought up to Stephanie that he thought that 9 is way too young to have a smartphone, his concerns were all ignored. When he brought up that he doesn't like Chloe being around her when she is smoking weed due to secondhand smoke, the issue was disregarded. Recently, Stephanie moved, and I helped Steve while she mostly stood around watching. Her place looked like it was recently featured on Hoarders. That day, Stephanie took Chloe to the ER for the flu as urgent care won't see her without insurance. Later, I told Steve about the Affordable Care Act and how he could get insurance for himself and Chloe. The next day, Steve asked Stephanie for Chloe's social security number to enroll her, and Stephanie freaked out, saying, "I don't even give Chloe's SSN to the state." She claimed Chloe was already insured, and when asked by Steve who the insurer was, she mumbled something vague. I directly asked, "Who is she insured through then?" And Stephanie snapped, yelling, "We are her parents." When we left, Steve said, "See what I'm dealing with? How she snapped at you." I replied that she had a point. It's not really my business. What do you think? Was I an asshole for asking who insures her child? Edit. I wanted to add that I have already advised him to get an attorney. He mentioned once that his brother is in huge debt over attorney fees to get time with his own daughter. I let him know that many attorneys will work with you and let you pay in monthly installments, and he was very receptive. I was going to include that in the original post but was limited to 3,000 characters. Why he hasn't done this already? I don't know. I mean, I certainly would have long ago. Also, that about $250 is in addition to him paying a big portion of her rent every month. Second edit. Wanted to add that I agree that my buddy should have taken care of this sooner. He stopped smoking weed shortly after I met him and has gotten a new job and is getting his life together, but Stephanie has not made it easy for him to be a good dad by alienating Chloe from him and his side of the family. Her need for control is so great that she won't allow Steve to spend time with the child alone, and she wouldn't give the SSN to Steve because she perceives it as getting one over on her. When Steve asked her for the SSN so he could insure Chloe at no cost to her, she should be happy to oblige, not adversarial. She isn't working at co-parenting, and he clearly is. As far as child support, what more should he be doing? He already pays a big portion of the rent, and whenever she calls him for money, he never says no or doesn't give her money when she asks, so I'm not sure what more he should be doing. You need to mind your business. Steve needs to stop being such a victim. He's nearly 50 and should be able to navigate both insurance and a court case if he wants joint legal custody. And the mom is a helicopter problem. You are the asshole. Literally none of this is your business. And Steve is playing you. If he wanted to be able to take Chloe in his own, he would have gone to court years ago to get some custody. He doesn't want to do that though, because then he'd end up paying more than $250 in child support. The fact that you make that sound so generous of him shows you know nothing about the cost of raising a child. Steve doesn't want to deal with the courts because he doesn't want to have to pay more and doesn't really want any custody of his daughter. Learn to mind your own business. Why are you so invested in a 50-year-old man's drama? Why is he only paying $250 a month for a kid? That's terrible. No kid can live on that. I'm curious if you think $250 a month without a court order is somehow admirable? And if it's so hard to see his daughter, why hasn't he taken her to court? You are the asshole. You are old enough to realize that $62.50 a week is absolutely nothing compared to the true costs of raising a child. What the fuck do you think you are getting involved in what happens in someone else's family? You can be a friend to him by listening, nothing else. You have absolutely no right to say anything to the mother about how she's raising her child, money or anything else. Get your own family if you want it. Your friend seems like a trailer trash lazy father. I'm starting to think Op is the actual father. No person goes this off for someone they've only known for 6 months or so. Am I the asshole for getting angry about family coming over unannounced? My husband's brother and wife were in town, and while we were out at church they went through our house, left all the TVs on, went into our kids' rooms and put bras and underwear on the ceiling fans, left tissues all over the floor, left music on blasting. When confronted they denied it. Then we were worried we actually were broken into and said then we need to call the police. They start laughing and admit they did it. Now they are mad at us for being upset. Not the asshole. How old are they? Did they get married when they were 14 and just celebrate their 3-month anniversary? Not the asshole. Your title is wrong. This isn't about them coming over unannounced. That makes it sound like they dropped by while you were sitting down to dinner and invited themselves in. This is about them essentially breaking into your home and trashing it. I would also point out to them that it's not too late to call the police. Do they have keys for emergencies, etc.? If so and they haven't already, make sure they hand them over. Not the asshole. They went through our house, left all the TVs on, went into our kids' rooms and put bras and underwear on the ceiling fans, left tissues all over the floor, left music on blasting. I'd make it clear they wouldn't be coming over until they apologized, and only after then by prior invite if they demonstrated they can act like grown adults. Not the asshole. Change the locks. These OS shouldn't be allowed in your house at all, much less unsupervised. Not the asshole. Start locking your doors. It's not funny to have your private space invaded and your personal belongings tampered with. Not the asshole. Don't let these people into your house again. They didn't just come over and act like slobs, they actively trashed your place. It takes intention and effort to put bras and underwear on ceiling fans. Were they your undergarments or theirs? If theirs, that's a ton of premeditation and borderline sexual harassment for a prank. If yours, they're people who will go through your private drawers. If they have ways to access your house without you, close those off. Rekey the locks if you have to. If you want to continue a relationship with them, meet at their place, parks, restaurants, anywhere but your house. What's your husband's take on all this? Am I the asshole for not telling my mom that she should stop interfering with my sister's love life? Edit. I did tell my mom to stop. I wrote the title incorrectly by accidentally adding "not" in there. Okay, so my sister, 18F, recently introduced to us, my dad, mom, and me, her boyfriend, I think 18 too or 19, who surprised me because her boyfriend was someone that I knew at school, older than me, and kinda close with after being partnered with him for an event. Anyways, I noticed my mom seemed a bit disappointed when my sister introduced her partner, and I later asked her when they left to go somewhere. My mom then explained that she thought my sister would get together with her friend's son. Let's call him Jake. Obviously false, but just for more clarity, which I was just confused about, frankly, because that said son already had a girlfriend. Though my mom reasoned that it wasn't like they were married yet, and considering how my sister and Jake had always known each other from childhood and whatnot. I got really annoyed at this because my mom also tried to pair me up with another friend's son, but he and I mutually agreed we had no interest in each other. Anyways, back to what happened. I told my mom that she really should just let my sister be since she's old enough to do what is right and knows what she deserves. Mom seemed upset with my words and told me that she was only thinking of the best for my sister, but I told her that she should stop trying to interfere with my sister's choices and that what my sister did was her choice. She seemed dissatisfied with my words and stormed off, and I heard her complain to my dad that I was becoming unruly, but it seemed like my dad agreed with me because a few hours after that, he gave me a thumbs up. And while I do have some bias with my sister because she's the best, I think that her boyfriend seemed pretty good, plus, from my experience with him, he was really respectful and never overstepped boundaries. So, am I in the wrong for what I said? Not the asshole, and I think you handled that well. Your mom isn't thinking of what's best for your sister, she's thinking of what's best for herself, her friend's son, and how cute that will be for her and her friend, and she already knows him so she doesn't have to bother getting to know somebody, etc. You were respectful and tried to explain that this is your sister's decision to make. Not the asshole. Mom definitely needs a hobby that isn't playing matchmaker for her and her friends' kids. That's probably what it's about. Being able to combine her family with her friends. Rom-com stupidity. Definitely not the asshole. You disturbed your mother's sense of peace but did so to maintain peace in the long run, trying to prevent your mother from making an error that could have long-lasting impacts. Please edit a couple of errors, for clarity. You got the title backwards. Need to remove the not, and the boyfriend being a senior of mine made no sense to me. Perhaps you meant a classmate of mine, or a classmate in my senior class at school. Thanks. Not the asshole. Parents who fantasize about their child marrying a friend's child are weird. Like, your mom doesn't actually want what's best for your sister. She just wants to fulfill some creepy romantic dream of hers. Your mom needed to be called out. Good on you for doing so. Not the asshole op. I am friends with a woman I've known for over 20 years. We're more like sisters than her own sisters are to her. Well, back in the day, I'd always hoped that my son would date one of her daughters. He didn't, and boy am I glad. That child is off her rocker. Not the asshole. She has an opinion. If it is a negative one and no one asked for it, then she can keep it to herself. Am I the asshole for backing up my husband who had told my stepmom to grow up or get out? This isn't on my main ACC as I want genuine opinions. I, 34F, and husband, 37M, and stepmom, 52F. My stepmom has been helping us out by babysitting my two children, 2 and 5, and while me and my husband are very grateful, we are very upset with her. My stepmom recently was divorced by my father. My stepmom had nowhere to go, so she had asked to stay with us. I hadn't had a great relationship with her for stealing stuff I had bought with my money when I was 17. However, I decided to push past this and move on. When she moved in, we went over rules and told her what her experience would look like. She agreed to our rules, which included buying food for herself when necessary, although we did tell her we would mostly be buying stuff for her so she could get back on her feet. Another rule we had was babysitting. We would agree to pay her for babysitting our kids when we needed her so that she could make some money to get back on her feet. We gave her our job contact info had she ever needed to call them if she couldn't get a hold of us while we were at work. Recently, we haven't really been needing her to babysit, but she has been insistent on paying for food items. We went over the fact that this wasn't needed and she replied that she wanted to feel like she had more power over us by paying for food. I gently reminded her that this was our house and she was a guest in it, to which she got pissed. She told me and my husband that she has power over us, and how she was my mom. I didn't reply and just stopped talking to her. My husband had made plans with her that we would need her to babysit our kids this past Monday, and she had agreed to it since we were both going to work. I am at work when my work receives a call from my husband telling me that my stepmom called him saying that she was leaving to go party with her friends, and he was going back home to talk to her. I agree that he is doing the reasonable thing since she has no concept of responsibility. I then, while at work, receive a call from my stepmom who had said that my husband said that she needed to grow up and gain responsibility or get out. I, of course, sided with my husband and she hung up. The next morning, whilst driving home, I noticed my stepmom's car wasn't in my driveway and I asked my husband about it, to which he replied, she chose to get out. I have been trying to reach my stepmom for days, but she nor my stepsister, whom she moved in with, will hold a conversation with me, and my stepmom will not apologize. I'm starting to feel like the asshole since neither of them will respond to me. Did I overreact and overstep? Edit 1. I disliked her when I was 17, didn't really talk to her, and then decided to give her another chance based on stepsis who had a problem similar to mine, which stepmom was able to apologize and grow from. The original reason she moved in with me and not stepsis is because she is having a rough time paying the rent. Also, we would pay stepmom and she wouldn't. I have been trying to reach my stepmom for days. Why? You trying to reach out, and her denial of it is feeding whatever perverse pleasure she gets from thinking she has power over you. It's also demonstrating, to her at least, that she does have power over you. Stop calling and good riddance to her. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. And never contact her again. This was a power move to show that she did in fact have some power over you, and the fact that you are trying to contact her is proving her point. She lives that you're reaching out and she's not answering, because it gives her even more power over you. I'm confused why you want to talk to her. Why didn't she move in with her daughter first? Not the asshole, and be grateful you got rid of her that easy. Wash your hands of her. If she wants to have a decent adult relationship with you, she can get in touch and apologize. Right now, enjoy the peace of not having someone who has power over you, 'cause what the fuck was that about? Stop trying to contact your stepmother. Grow a fucking backbone. Sounds like your husband took out the trash.